This is the map we were talking about the other day. In a Chris Cillizza, who is not a pro-Trump guy, he's talking about in a redistricting war, Republicans would win, and they would win by a lot. Like, there's a lot of room for Republicans to grow. So if the Democrats want to do this, if they want to actually try to be like, oh, well, we'll redistrict and we'll show you, that's a terrible strategy. They just don't have the room to grow the way that Republicans do. So, I mean, look, I'm not for this kind of redistricting war, but if the Democrats want to,
they're going to lose.
Yeah, this is the reality that they have to face. So I think that they're just posturing, because I think that the smart Democrats know this. So I think that it's all just them trying to frighten people, or trying to posture conservatives.
I mean, I think this is an inevitability, because we're just seeing and I'm not saying this is inherently a good thing, because often when you hear bipartisan, it actually means you're about to get screwed over. But I think this has been the direction we're heading for a while, is any sense of bipartisanship would be going out the window. And I think to a certain degree, states that did, allow the opposing party a few seats, I think gerrymandering is going to really become the new standard. Squeeze as many of the opposing party seats out as possible. I think as a country, we're just going to be divided further and further. So I don't think this is really surprising whatsoever. This is just like a natural direction we were going in.
Pretext for escalation when a Democrat inevitably gets back in. They'll run on this and say the Republicans are destroying our democracy by redistricting mid-decade, and we have to add more states as a result of this. We have to pack the court because the judges that Trump put in were illegitimate, and that's what and they'll use this as the pretext.
I do think that you are right. They will use this as the pretext, but I think that when they get back if they get back into power, they will do all the things that we talked about, regardless of whether conservatives do this, because there's no reason for them to not.
Oh, I mean, they're convinced. To speak to your average median Democrat, they're convinced that Trump is trying to institute the Fourth Reich in the United States. So, like, obviously, they're gonna try to make Puerto Rico a state or whatever, because it's like they're convinced they're in a movie and that they're like the rebel alliance.
Ever since basically Barack Obama, they thought that, okay, the Democrats are now going to control the government. The real competition is going to be who gets to be the Democrat nominee. The Republicans are going to be just a regional party. They're not ever going to have serious power again. They, erroneously thought that, and they got really complacent, and then they met Donald Trump as a candidate, and everything changed. And one of the things that happens when it comes to the Democrats is, if they lose ground, they don't just say, oh, well, we'll get him next time. They literally freak out. That's why everyone was so apoplectic when Donald Trump won. That's why you saw people, the leftists in D.C., literally screaming when Donald Trump was inaugurated on the 20th of January 2017. They were absolutely besides themselves, because they thought that they had a permanent power base. They thought that they would not ever lose control, and they thought from here on out it was whatever progressives and Democrats wanted. And to lose that power, they don't know how to deal with it, because it's not just a matter of, okay, next time we'll adjust our message and we'll go to the people and we'll make a better argument. No. They're not interested in making arguments. They're interested in expanding the court. They're interested in ending the Electoral College, and they're interested in adding states. That's not what you do when you lose in a democracy. What you do is say, we need to make our arguments better. We need to convince the American people why these things are right, and we need to change our platform so that way the American people want to vote for us. But they're not interested in doing that. They have not done any soul searching. Maybe Gavin Newsom did, because Gavin Newsom's out there doing the podcasts and stuff, and he's got a good media team. So maybe there are a handful of them, but the vast majority of the influential Democrats have done no soul searching. They're not interested in doing that. They're interested in doing whatever they can to put Donald Trump in jail, which they tried. They will do all these things should they get back into power. They will do expand the court, all that stuff. That stuff is definitely coming. And I personally think that they'll do a whole lot more. I think that they'll look to put people like Tim Pool, or people that are conservatives that have an influential voice. They'll put those people in jail.
Sure they will.
They'll do everything they can to make sure that you can't You know, they'll have the DOJ and say, "Oh, we've got this thing on you," because they did it to Donald Trump and it almost worked.
Yeah.
If they get back into power, they'll do it again, and they'll do it with 2, 3 times, 10 times the force, because they believe that they are entitled to power, they are entitled to be in charge, they are entitled to rule, and they will smash their political opponents. I don't think that there's a compelling argument against that. And I do think you're right, Elaad. I think you're completely 100% dead on. But I don't think that not doing these things will prevent them. I think that the die has already been cast. Yeah. As soon as they get into power, and I mean they've talked about all those things so many times. They're going to do it. You know,
it's funny you name drop Newsom, because I think he said he'd draw out all but one Republican in California. I think he said something along those lines. And I mean, the incentive structure is set up such that if he wants to run for president down the line, this is what he should be doing, right? The Democrats want to see one of their own so-called fighting back against the president. And Gavin's doing just that.
Yeah.
And he's a handsome guy.
So you should vote for him.
I'm not a Californian. And
no, I know. I'm just. It's just funny. I mean, here's the guy who can't put any water in the fire hydrants, and it's a guy that's the the number one salesman for U-Haul. But it's just really weird for me that this guy's able to. He'll run. He'll be the guy they put out there.
He'll probably be the nominee.
But how do they think they can get the message across when they put Harris and Biden in office? Because those people can't talk their way out of anything. No, I mean, it was amazing to me that. Well, did they really get in office? But that's another thing we can talk about too.
Our boy Tate here has got a great point that he likes to make, and that's people vote on vibes.
Yeah,
it's
America is a very vibes-based country, and evidence for this is Gavin Newsom's adoption of Trump's mannerisms and his tweeting style, which is hilarious because it's kind of this. There's 2 concessions happening there. The first concession is Gavin Newsom and the left broadly conceding that Trump embodies America so well that his style of communication embodies like an American style of communication, and that they're conceding that he's funny and that it's a really funny way of communicating. So they're not even really mocking Trump when they're using his tweets and stuff. They're almost just saying like, yeah, this is a really funny way to talk. And then the second concession is that they've gone too far in the anti-American direction, that they're seen as anti-patriotic. And Exhibit A for this was in Gavin Newsom's state during the LA riots, when they're flying Mexican flags everywhere in Guatemala, Nicaragua, and da-da-da-da-da, is they started begging these protesters to fly American flags, because they're like, guys, I know you're doing something really anti-American, but at least like have the pretense, make it look patriotic, start waving American flags around and that sort of thing. So there's 2 concessions.
Well, they're all passing them around. They went in there with flags.
Because they know how bad it looks.
Yeah.
Newsom does give off chill white guy vibes, if you will, and Democrats are trying to win that vote back over.
Oh, yeah.
Because they lost it in the previous election. So I think that's what they're going back to, trying to get back some of the white vote. And he gives, he's a good white face, if you will.
No, after Kamala got whooped like that, the DNC is going to look like a Vineyard Vines ad next 2028. I mean, it's going to be like White Boy Central, because that
gives off those vibes.
Yeah, at least that's what the establishment. I mean, dude, they're like, there's these electabros on Twitter, and they're like begging Democrats to consider Andy Bashir, because they just want to win so bad, and they know the way to do that is they put up just like a normal like white guy, because I mean they literally DEI'd Kamala. Like Biden literally said, "I'm going to nominate a black woman for vice president."
Was it Newsom
that
who
was
at
her
the French
qualifications
Laundry during the COVID pandemic? It was him. It was Newsom.
Yeah, he was.
That's such a white boy thing to do.
It is.
Like during the pandemic, I need to take my girl out to the fancy restaurant still, and I get caught there. No, of course I took my wife here. What do you expect? Like I still got to put on for her.
And there is almost a distinctivly
like an arrogant white guy. That's such an arrogant white guy thing to do in a positive way.
There's like a distinctively American quality of just being like just this like greased hair, like slime, but like I'll do anything to like win. Like there is like a weird Machiavellian that's like, all right. Granted, he's like basically a communist, so that kind of falls short. But there is something refreshing about a guy that is so evil that he's like, I'll say whatever to win.
Who's that actor?
And he's honest
Zoomers
about
it.
Ryan
Bateman.
Oh, Patrick. Yeah, he's like Patrick Bateman of politics. Yeah.
You need to say something, Serge?
I was going to say it's Dago coded.
It's very. Oh yeah, he's gonna get up there and lie to your face and get a comb.
If you look at the picture of his family, everybody's blonde and blue-eyed. That is waspy as hell.
Yeah,
that is waspy as hell. And to be honest with you, I don't know that the left I really don't know that the left, especially in a primary, and we've probably talked about this a little bit, but I really don't think the left can bring themselves to vote for such a waspy looking guy.
Well,
I mean, they did with Biden.
But they did with Biden, and it took the.
If you really believe that he won that in a kosher way.
I don't. I personally,
I feel
don't
like that's
think
a conversation for another.
I think it was a novel election, and I think that if it were not for the fact that there were ballots mailed to everybody, and there was ballot harvesting, Biden would not win. I honestly, I don't know that.
Got to bring a rabbi in to see if that election was kosher.
I don't think that. I'm not. Well, I don't know that I think, but I am curious as to whether Democrats can win at all. Should they actually go to same day paper ballot?
That's what they should do. And no more mail-in voting. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would love
It's
to.
not racist to show an ID. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we can talk about here. It just drives me crazy.
So start at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
The polls close at 8 at night.
They do it in other countries.
It's what they do in Florida. If you look at Florida, they have their S together when it comes to the way
India knocks it out.
You
in a
know,
day.
I will
They have a
say this,
billion
guys.
people.
I feel as though mail-in ballots might be getting a bad rap because of the previous election, but I think they might actually skew to help Republicans because Republicans tend to skew older, and if you skew older on election day, if there's something that gets in your way or there's bad weather, old people are less likely to vote, and if you give them a week or so to kind of send in a mail-in ballot ahead of time, I understand the security concerns of it, but I do feel as though it actually biases towards Democrats to have it only be
if there's honest voting. If there's honest, I mean, there's people are filling these things in by the thousands and stuffing them in. I mean, there's video footage. 2,000 Mules is a very interesting documentary.
Sure.
That Dinesh put out there.
Well, I mean, all this is, I think we're just putting Band-Aids on bullet holes, and I think the Trump administration is aware of this, and that's why they're cracking down on the immigration stuff so hard, because birthright citizenship is still in the books. SCOTUS still hasn't gotten rid of it, and I don't know if they can. I hope so. So it's like we're just looking at a ticking clock because there's still tens of millions of illegal immigrants in this country that are having children, and those children will vote Democrat because I mean, they feel victimized by the Trump administration. Of course, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder.
Hey, who knows? The President Trump's been winning over a lot of these Hispanic voters, and the districts that he's redrawing in Texas are actually, there's so many Hispanics on those border towns that he's redistricting.
These are Tejanos that have been there for 4 or 5, 6.
What does that mean? I don't know what
it's like Mexican Americans in Texas that have been there for generations, because you can tell because Hispanics in California vote like 70-30 Democrat, while Hispanics in Texas are now voting Republican. But the big difference, it's the Hispanics aren't this, monolith, is because the Hispanics in Texas have been there for generations, right? I mean, many of them can trace their lineage from before the Texas Revolution, versus California, they've all arrived in the last 2 generations.
I do feel like there is this growing brand of Hispanic that is also increasingly anti-immigrant, even towards other Mexicans that want to keep American great again, that are based Mexicans, that don't want to get taken advantage of, who came in the legal way. And see those other people taking advantage and feel like they got the short end of the stick. So
I know many. I agree with you. I know many. When I lived in LA, I know many of those. I met quite a few of them saying the exact same thing you just said now.
Well, it was really funny because the Republicans from like Reagan on, they made this bet that they could import Hispanic labor, but somehow they would convince them to vote Republican through like emphasizing free market values or like maybe like saying, oh, they're Catholic, they're naturally conservative. And it didn't really work. And then Trump came along and didn't pander at all. He's just like, hey, we're going to make America great. If you want to make America great with me, you can. I'm not even going to translate that into Spanish. Just figure it out. And they're like, oh, great. You're treating me like a human being. Yeah, I'll vote for you. And it's like, you don't need to pander to these people. You just need to present a compelling future for the United States, and they'll be along with that. Like, you don't need to treat them like idiots. The Democrats, if you want to be treated like an idiot because of your race, you can vote for the Democrats.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.